So we're
Oh,
officially live.
amazing.
I've got the little signal here. So Ashley, thank you for saying yes to me. Um,
Absolutely.
I have been reading you on Substack for a while, and I know we exchanged some commentary and dialogue and what have I think a few chats just in the context of sobriety.
Mhm.
Um, that has been my entry point in coming to Substack, being like brave enough to kind of write about being sober woman and all of that. And you and I have that in common. And what I have really discovered about myself, so I am in the middle of my fifth year of sobriety, I guess. I think that, oh no, my sixth year. I don't know how to count it. Like
Okay.
I hit 5 years in January.
Yeah.
But what's happening with me, and I know this isn't unique, but I'm getting like the deeper I get into sobriety, it feels as though the more self-aware I'm becoming, but also I am just wanting to consume like the personal development and
Mhm.
really kind of get under like why I am the way I am. And my nature is I am a seeker and a learner and all of that. So I don't want to like be, I have compassion about my compulsions. I'm just like, this is who you are. But what I love about the work I think you're doing of late is like combining that tendency, which is not even a like purely sobriety thing,
Mhm.
with midlife and how, you know, for me, I know it's like they're colliding. Like my sober journey is colliding. I'm 48 years old, like with the hormonal upheaval and just all of the questions we kind of ask ourselves as women in midlife. So, when you ever had that thought, first of all, I didn't even know you had your podcast linked to your Substack. So then I was like, "Oh, this is cool. You must have thrown it in a note." And so I just went through. It was the one on desire, and then I went through
Oh,
your library there, and the title of it, "The Self Help Slut." I was like, "There I am." Like I had never
yeah.
heard it phrased that way. Anyway, so if you don't mind starting there, I'd love to know your journey in kind of figuring that out about yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. It's been really nice interacting with you online, and it always is really, I don't know if the word reassuring is, what I'm looking for, but being able to connect with women who are having a similar experience because I think sobriety can be jarring in its own way. And I think midlife is jarring in its own way. And it's all, like you said, it's just colliding all at once. So to have some other voices in there and some relating and mirroring is just like, oh, it feels so good and makes me feel like connected in community. So thank you for having me. My journey with it, I actually, I'd actually originally got sober in my early 30s. And that was a very different experience than the one I'm having now. I stayed sober for about 5 years, didn't have any awareness really around my behavior, past trauma. There was really no dialogue at the time going on about self-help really. So it was just, "Oh, alcohol's a problem. If I stop that, life's gonna get better. I won't do all these things I've been doing to wreck my life and myself and sabotage things, and it will just be fine." And 5 years later, like nothing had changed. And so I was like, well, I guess alcohol wasn't a problem and proceeded to go drink for about 3 years. I was out there. And that's when I was going into my late 30s and early 40s. And it was a very different experience drinking in my like in my 40s than it was in my 20s and 30s. Like what I was experiencing physiologically, mentally, it was just this pool. Like I was just being like there was like I was just being swallowed whole by anxiety. I felt like I was just going down really fast, and nobody outside of me recognized a problem or thought I was a problem. My life looks fine, but internally, I was just like, "What is going on?" And it just got to a point where I was like, I actually can't do this anymore. Like, I can't live through this. I feel like I want to die, and that's like not serving anyone around me. So thankfully, I woke up one morning and I was like, "That's it. Like, I'm really done." And I will say, I also was experiencing my body was starting to reject it in very small quantities, which my friends and everybody thought was really cute. They're like, "Oh, Ashley's such a lightweight," and they didn't realize that at like 2 glasses of rosé, I'd come home and like the room would sort of like tilt.
Yeah.
And it wasn't cute. It didn't feel cute. And so it was like that. There was things like that. It was like, clearly something's going on in my body that's like, this isn't working. And the reason I mentioned the first time versus the second time, the first time I quit drinking, I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want to talk about it. I felt maybe some shame and a bit taboo. I was losing friendships. And I was like, I think I was just a little bit embarrassed because, society wasn't really so accepting of sober curious or sobriety. There was still a bit more of a stigma versus now there's not. But I also realized for me, I don't care anymore. Like if any woman out there recognizes herself in like, oh, my life looks fine. Everything's great, except for internally, nothing is okay. I want her to know like you're not alone. Like it's a very normal thing, especially as we enter midlife and all of our hormones are changing and the chemical processing that doesn't really happen for us with alcohol. That of course you feel like your life is coming to a halt if you're still drinking, on top of the reckoning of entering your 40s and being like, oh my God, who am I? Like, which is another just like a double whammy. Like I've lived 20 years really unconsciously, consciously for everybody around, like doing what society wanted me to do, get married, have kids, get the business going. I was just really following those footsteps until I was getting my second divorce at 31 and being like, oh, wait, maybe I actually never wanted to be married. Like I never asked myself that. I'd never, so in my 40s, it was like looking back and just starting to really ask those questions of like, what is it that you really want? And I'll just also, my kids, I'm an earlier empty nester. My kids both moved out by the time I was like near 42, like 41, 42. So I really did have this open door opportunity to just walk in and be like, okay, what's the second half going to look like based on what I really want? Not what do I need to be as a mother? What do my kids need? What does a husband or partner need? It was like, really, what do I want? And that's a very hard question to answer.
It
it's,
is. It
it's
is.
super hard.
It's
Yeah.
super hard. And I think for me anyway, a lot of my identity was wrapped up in sort of, um, like the social scene involved in drinking and, quite honestly, parenting too. Like my kids, one's at 19, the other's 12, but like that's how I kind of, hung out with other parents. And it was just everything, it was like the Venn diagram. And in the middle was like, the socializing and the drinking. And I think women can get really wrapped up in having their identity like as
Yeah.
part of that.
Yeah.
Uh, and I also think it's not unusual, even if they're a woman who never had a problem with drinking or just could like take it or leave it, which was never me, but could take it or leave it. Um, Even those women, I think, start to bump up against these same questions. Like, what have I been sort of on autopilot? Like, what do I want? And that's why I think there's such a big industry for this, and
Well,
that's where we get sucked right in. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly right. Like the alcohol industry in the most genius way started marketing, as you know, to like mommy wine. And
Yeah.
it's luxurious and relaxation and you've had a long day and they are targeting the perfect demographic for what they're offering. Like it really is that relaxation that you're looking for. Like you are spent at the end of the day, even without kids, I imagine, like with working or
Mm.
partners, whatever it is, like as a human in this day and age, like, yeah, at the end of the day, like you are probably desperately seeking something to relax you. Or for someone like myself who was living a life that she really didn't choose consciously, wasn't aware of that, but I could feel that tension internally and was like, how do I tolerate? How do I tolerate this marriage I'm in that I don't want to be in? And how do I tolerate doing all these other things that like really I'm angry over? Or, and like I don't want that voice to come out. So okay, I'm instinct is I'll drink. I'll drink and I'll just soothe that. And it's like again, the drink is like wine with dinners and like cocktail and it like looks really pretty and packaged nicely. And I think it really is quietly taking down a lot of women out there that don't identify with rock bottoms or crisis and 12-step recovery programs. They're in that middle. And I
Yeah.
think that's honestly one of the worst places to exist because you're not reaching that point of pain where you're like
Yep.
forced to like, oh my God, I got to get out of this. And so you just kind of like live in that state, and it's just really unpleasurable. It's really unpleasurable.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it can be, I think it can also be super confusing.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't have this gut sense that like I'm killing myself or it's nothing drastic or like,
Yeah.
but still, you just don't, you know, it's not
You know,
you know, what's
down.
working.
Yeah. Yeah. The women I work with often they're saying, like, "I'm not gonna drink today." They wake up a little fuzzy and hungover, they're tired, they didn't sleep well because they woke up in the middle of the night, from the wine processing or even just hormonally that's happening for a lot of women, but when you're adding wine to it, it's worse. And so they're like, "I'm not gonna do that today." And then they find themselves at noon thinking about it, and by 5 o'clock, like, pouring without thinking about it. And they're like, "What?" You start to feel out of control, and that's a scary feeling, even though it isn't this problem, but you're like, "Why can't I control this?" And
Mm,
and it's hard to control something when you're trying to think your way through anything with
yeah.
willpower because the desire is coming from a deeper
Yeah.
survival primitive brain, So it's actually it makes sense and it's doing the right job, but it also is like, yeah, those women are just like, what's happening to me? And
Hmm.
it is hard to like ask for help in that state, I think, for a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, which go ahead.
One thing I was gonna circle back to is for me, um, what sobriety sort of plunged me into, and this was just my doing completely,
Mhm.
was the personal development, right? It was,
Yeah.
I, cause so like I ended up knowing, I knew I had a problem with alcohol. So what I did was before I stopped drinking was like read all the Quit Lit and like listen to all the podcasts, like as if by osmosis, I could
Yeah.
get over. Um, And eventually I stopped, but then all of that stuff like to your earlier point of like needing community and wanting community, like you sort of just you have to I had to prioritize it. I had to prioritize my sobriety
Mhm.
and then I had to be so immersed in all of that, right? Like all the modalities that help you kind of get back to yourself. But then, and this is what confuses, I think, a lot of people who have some years of sobriety, like not the women who are stopping or and starting, stopping and starting, but some women, like for me, I was like year 3, year 4, I felt way more like just a mess
Yeah.
versus year 1 and 2. Like it was just like, what's going on? And I sort of now know that like it kind of had to happen that way. But like what I was doing, I think was I just wasn't sitting with myself. I was like I was like too afraid to like I keep thinking about how like yes I was prioritizing my sobriety and doing what I need to do, but it was like I was in this like shallow end of a pool and like I'm in the water, like I'm doing what I need to do to stay sober and get to know like the root of sort of like why I needed to cope that way without ever being brave enough to like dive to the bottom, right? And so I would just consume like
Yeah.
other people's like information and stories and books and, courses and all of the things. And I don't like I don't ever say that to think like I did that was the wrong move because I don't. It was like an arrested development for my sobriety. Like I relied on it way too much. Um and so I can see that now, but like that doesn't mean I'm not doing it. Like I still do it. I
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I appreciate the part about like, still being seekers. Like I think that's part of people that's sort of I don't want to just like put everybody in a bucket here, like, but for those of us who have that drinking problem or, wanting of more, it's like that more is gonna get attached onto it's just a game of whack-a-mole, really.
Yep.
Have this saying that I heard a long time ago. I actually think I heard it from Liz Gilbert in an interview with Tim Ferriss when she was referring to her partner Rhea, I think
Yeah.
is the name. And she said, if it's not a man, it's a muffin. If it's not a man, it's a martini. If it's not a martini, it's a Mastercard. If it's not a Mastercard, it's a muffin. And I was like, bing, bang, bang, bang. Yeah, it's just constant, like all of it. Like for me, it started with food as a young child. Like that was my thing. If I was uncomfortable, I was going to eat. Men definitely alcohol, drugs, definitely shopping, holy moly, like identifying that. Um, but there is this need for more, and it's like anything outside of me that might make me feel better, including a book. Like
Yeah.
I am the girl that will go to the library and be like, "Oh my god, I need this book," and then I go home and I have the book. Like I'm like, this
Like,
next
well,
thing is
you go in the
amazing.
library. I'm the girl who puts it in the Amazon cart. Like, no, you
Yeah.
don't need to buy that.
Yeah, but it's like this thing that might change me. I need to figure this out. This thing
Yeah.
outside of me might
Yeah.
might have the solution that I'm desperately seeking to feel good,
Mhm.
and like yourself, it does get to a place where it's like I have to rewire that part of myself. I have like for me to sit and not take the first think or move is actually the greatest self like personal work that I've ever done, because it's just rewiring that behavior. It's showing me a new way. It's like I get to watch the instinct to want to reach outside and do this other thing to feel better. And instead, I just sit with it and experience it. And it's deeply uncomfortable. But then I get comfortable with that. And so I'm less likely, to start reaching out. And um, the first few years were brutal, honestly. They were really brutal learning how to do that. And I still, to this day, don't do it perfectly, but if there was one answer, because that's really what the Sluts for Self-Help, like, was sort of inspired by. It was like, man, it has been constant for years of just, like, looking for answers to change and be better and to fix who I am, and I guess I kinda got to a place where I was like, "What if none of this needs fixing?
Yeah.
What if I'm just, like, completely whole as I am, and I'm just with that, and then I don't react to things?" Like, what if I just sit for a moment and then choose responses, right? And, that is something that takes a lot of work. There's no book, there's no podcaster or influencer or anything out there that can hold your hand during that necessarily. Like, it's something that you have to learn to sit through that comfort with and learn how to be with it. And it's just not easy for those of us seeking things outside of ourselves for comfort or to change.
Yeah, that's why I think that, the consumption, it's a different consumption now, right?
Yeah.
It can be really confusing because it feels good. Like as far as like you feel like you're making progress because it is, you're immersed in all these learnings about like bettering yourself and but it doesn't really like get into like for me it doesn't like get in there
Yeah.
because it's somebody else's program or whatever and
Right.
just leapfrogging from one to the other. It's like
Yeah.
I didn't even practice it necessarily, or at least that was my MO for a while. Yeah.
Well, I feel like you said, like, it had to happen that way. I think there is value in it, because there probably are, like, it's like, well, at least this is a healthier thing to be trying, right? And some of it probably does soak in and help shift the way that we're seeing things. I remember listening to Gabor Mate in 2018 and hearing him talk about alcoholism and addiction. Paradigm shift, like massive paradigm shift. Like
Yep.
I've never heard anything like that. And so I know that there are people out there, like, there's this groundbreaking work being, brought forward to us to help us understand some of this. And I think both of us can agree, like, we don't want to dismiss any of that. But it's not enough just to listen or read. And it's like to be able to really embody those changes does just require like a lot of presence and a lot of practice and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of patience.
You know, Gabor Mate too, like it's funny because if I had to pick one person who, like for me was like, as far as like understanding like addiction, perhaps it's him, right? It's not all these, like there's so many women, like if I would have listed out, but he's like at the top. I heard him once, I guess he was, I think it was on Dan Harris's podcast, but he was saying, for him, he had this he kept collecting classical music or like records or something, and he would like leave the hospital, go buy all these, and he couldn't stop. He's like, I could not stop. He said, and for me, it was simply the acquisition. It wasn't even the music. It wasn't even when I went home.
Getting the thing.
He had to like build his collection, and I was like, that is what it felt like for me, like building this sobriety syllabus and being like, because we think we need that for for safety and control, like, you feel like you're in control. But he's amazing.
I
Um
actually met him once outside. I was
Really?
in Sacramento, just real quick. I was there with my run group. There was a marathon there, and I was like a support runner. And I saw him come in the lobby. Oh my God, it's Gabor. Everyone was like, "Who?" And he had this. There was this guy with him, this young man who I was like, "Oh, this is my gateway here. This guy's gonna." But I walked up, and he's like, "Mr. Monte's really busy right now." I was like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah.
Big fan. But the next morning, I went out to the elevator, and he was there, and he was in a robe and his slippers, and we got in. He was like, "Oh," I was like, "Hey, it's just gotta tell you, it's really nice to see you here." And he said, "Oh, are you here for he was speaking," and I was like, "Actually, I didn't know. If I had known, I'd definitely be there. I'm here for the marathon." And, he said, "I thought about doing a marathon once." And I was like, "Yeah? What'd you think?" And he's like, No, I didn't think anything more about that." And I was like, "Okay." And then we just got in the elevator and rode down together, and he's just so humble and sweet, and I was just like, "Look at him cruising around in a robe, like, he doesn't care."
Yeah,
He's just so
and
great.
I really admire him, and I go back to, like, I mean, of course I do, right? I go back to it. But, like, he's someone who, explained it in a way that I never heard before. Uh,
Yeah. I so part of, I think the reason I have this desire to not be a part like, to not drink and honor what my body was just telling me, I also grew up with an alcoholic mother who had mental illness, and it was just and substance abuse. It was just your picture of the worst
mm,
case scenario, and so listening to him, it if it hadn't been for what he was talking about, I don't know that I ever would have been able to open my mind to go back into her life and see her as a woman in the world and not my mother, and to be able to sit with her. That was, like, just this new way of understanding trauma and, how that can carry into addiction and alcoholism and reshape the brain, and then all of it was just, like, it changed me and our relationship. So that was probably, like, the first thing I was just like, "Oh, yeah, that's gold. That man is just gold."
oh,
I love it. Yeah,
it's the epigenetics too that, like, I never
yeah,
even would think to consider, when it comes to that sort of thing. So, like, I mean, it's kind of funny that we ended up here because this is a perfect example of, like, it's not all bad. Like, it's like this is being a seeker, being a learner, like, this is the information we get, and it, helps us understand ourselves better.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, it does, but I think there's this point where you have to, change is hard, and it definitely just it comes from within, so I think it is important to, hear what you need to hear, and you can look, but, like, really,
Mhm.
really most of the answers are within. Because even if you're hearing someone like Gabor Mate, like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna resonate with you for change, right? Like, I still drank after that, like, it changed how I viewed my mother. It still took me, many years to go back into her life, like, I still had to, like, get my nervous system online
Wow.
with the brain, the prefrontal cortex to be like, "Okay, are these in alignment now?" Like, that takes time, and
Mhm.
so, yeah, I get the information, but I don't, at this point in my life, expect, like, overnight change, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you work with a lot of women? Like, so for me, I lead with my head, right? I still do. Like, I feel like I always will. It's just like I'm a lawyer. Like, I go for
Yeah.
logic. I go for, like, and I feel as though I've always been this girl who wants to intellectualize everything and sort of understand it, like, pick it apart. Um, but to really feel in your body, like, to feel whole, like, you can't. It's not up here.
Well, it's yeah, Aldous Huxley talks about that in one of his books where he's like, "Understanding is non-conceptual," right? Like, you can
Yeah.
think all you want, but you can't understand what someone else is experiencing or even what you think you want. It has to be embodied. And so, yeah, I think all of us are that way. Most of us are living in our prefrontal cortex, thinking about what we could do to change this and thinking about planning and goal setting. And that's where a lot of people start confronting it when they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to do this anymore." And then couple days later, they're like, "Oh, I'm doing the thing I said I was going to do. What's going on here?" And so my work with women is to bring them to yes, recognize what you're thinking. That's incredibly important. But then to get into our bodies, like, because we're living neck out, most of us. So, like, to be able to get into our bodies and find out what the body brain is thinking, because the body brain is actually the one driving. You're honestly on autopilot. Like, you think you're making decisions, but your body brain subconsciously is the one driving the car. And so that's my work. And it really stemmed from, which seems like a strange, not really a strange place to stem from, but I had a lingerie and sexual wellness shop for 10 years. And I listened to thousands of women in the dressing rooms. And what I heard repeatedly over and over is just how removed they were from being in their own bodies and their own body wisdom and understanding even their own pleasure and their sexuality. And that was life changing for me to listen to that and hear it over and over. And so I worked with women around that for a long time. And then it shifted to, oh, those same women are reaching outside of themselves to drink because they're so uncomfortable in their own bodies that they're like, this will help me feel better. Or food or affairs, like you name it, like anything else but to go in here. And so that's my work, is to help women understand what you're thinking, but then understand what your brain body and kind of like some of what those other parts of yourself are desiring and have going on, and to meet those.
Yeah, I really resonated too with how I think on your or maybe it was when you went live earlier this week solo, talking about like how your desires can change.
Yeah.
And, you, for instance, were saying how you're sort of questioning, like, who am I now? Like, is this like this Ashley kind of doesn't want the same stuff or different things are
Yeah.
and for me, and it's a like just kind of a simpler way, and you're surprising yourself like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's really surprising, and it's surprising on so many levels. And I think part of the problem for women right now is that, like, for so long, the messaging and the narrative around what it means to age and hormones and menopause and sexuality, they're just so wrong. Not even researched properly, right? Like, a lot of our sexuality, orgasms, etc., it's based on a man's experience. So that's what we've been taught about and taught. And then, like, I don't know how long we've heard the trope that women, when they hit menopause, don't want sex anymore and they don't have desire. So whether you believe that or not, you're still confronting it. It's like the weeds in the garden. Like, they are there no matter what. Like, if you live in this culture, like, you're gonna have to contend with them. And so my brain is contending with that. I'm 46 years old, and as my desire is changing with my pleasure, the first thing is like, oh, am I losing it? Is this it? Is it going to be gone? And it's interesting because I'm like, well, wait, I have a very healthy sex life with my boyfriend. I'm enjoying that. So what it is, it's because I've had pleasure practices for so long. Like, I'm a big believer in pleasure isn't outside of me. I don't need a partner for that. I highly encourage and empower women to learn how to also be in their own bodies intimately,
Yeah.
to learn what they want and what feels good for them, and to bring that into their partnerships. And I've I've lived that. And being this woman who owned a sex toy shop and sold lingerie, like, and I wrote a dating column here in town for years. And my work used to be writing about, like, so identified with
Yeah.
female pleasure and my own, that was like, oh, if I'm not her, if my desire is not that, who am I? Like, if I'm not this woman who wants to go to my bedroom and, like, take care of myself and be in my body for a little while, who am I? And the biggest, like, through meditation and some of my own work, realization or epiphany was like, oh, wait, I've been waking up in the morning with this, like, feeling and this pull, like, to get out before the birds is, I'm like, I've got to beat the bird. I've got to beat this
Yeah.
bird that chirps in the morning and go run and see the sunrise. And I've been like, what is this feeling I'm having? Like, what's going on in here? And the epiphany was like, oh, that's my desire.
Yeah.
That's desire. Holy, like, wow, like, I can feel it. And, like, every day I'm sitting down and I'm practicing learning French, and I don't even think about it. I just do it. And I'm like, my life is suddenly like, here's where my desire was going, in the bedroom with myself, beautiful. But now at this age and stage of my life, like opening up to so much more in life, like the eros of life and being turned on by life and wanting to be so many other parts of it, because there is this, women aren't just, our desire isn't just about sex. And like to be like to find myself stepping into that and realizing like, oh, it's none of these things that I thought. It's
Yeah.
like actually getting bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not contained to this one little space alone. Like,
Yeah. And
yeah,
like that other things can turn you on, right? Because there's a
yeah.
different, not just sexual like
Well, and
energy,
it's kind
but
of embarrassing, Allison, because I wrote a post and a podcast years ago. Actually, there's one called "Living an Erotic Life," and I write about it and I touch on it all the time. That I want this thing, I want this thing, and then it wasn't until these last few weeks where I was like, oh shit, it's happening. Like this thing I've been talking about, like I'm starting, that's that seeking we were talking about. It's like I'm starting to
yeah,
embody that. Like I can feel it and it's so powerful. Honestly, it's so powerful. And it excites me. It excites me more actually. And I do want to say this part about women aging and menopause. I don't know a woman over 50 who doesn't talk to me about like how turned on she or like how great like it's actually more than not women who are like newly divorced, I will say that. They are living crazy sex lives. They're having sex like they haven't had. And a lot of people are like, well, that this must be an outlier situation. No one's ever talked about it this way. And I'm like, I think it's a generational thing.
yeah.
Gen X women are talking about it more than ever. Maybe just before that, some women before that, but like women weren't allowed to share about their pleasure and sexuality before.
Especially as they're aging, like they were
Totally.
like, you know,
Totally. And this is just like a completely different time. So it's like very inspiring, I think, for other women to be talking about it, letting us know, like, oh no, like get ready. Like, yeah, you're
yeah, I have to believe that there's a correlation. Like everything you're describing that's turning you on, like that's bigger and like, opening you up to, the birds outside or just getting like just learning different things about yourself. And like if that's getting you in your body, I have to believe that when you're actually with another body physically,
yeah.
that you can bring that. Like you can bring that to it. So it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I fully do. I think all of that really is worth pursuing, practicing, and just looking for like, and what areas of my life are turning me on. Like I said, mine really sounds crazy to some people, but running in the morning, like I can't get enough of that. I've been running for over 20 years. I have not felt this way about running in a long time, which is kind of like, I think of running, it is one of my longest commitments I've ever had in life. So I do consider it like a partnership. Like I've been going at this thing a long time. And there's been there was a decade where like I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it, but I just kept showing up and I didn't necessarily enjoy it. And then
Yeah.
there were times where I still didn't want to do it, but I had a good time. And right now I'm like, I'm so in love with this thing. I'm so glad we're still in it.
Yeah. It's
Really
fun.
powerful.
I have a complicated relationship with running because, like I ran marathons, like I was the when I was most fit as far as a runner was when I was like really drinking. Like it was sort of the thing that kept me like stuck in thinking, like, I just justify like I just woke up and ran 10 miles. Like last night was fine because look what I can still do. So I still have I just have, I don't know. I've tried to get back to it because I know how good it is for so many reasons, and I'm just trusting myself that, like, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So but instead, I am I can't like, I'm constantly in the woods. I am a beach girl, like, if you ever told me, like, I'd be the girl, like, going through the woods, like, sitting on the trees and just being in all that kind of I never would believe you. But that's what's turning me on, like, I am my home abuts, like, all this conservation land, so there are all these wooded trails and, so I'm hiking and I'm back there, but I'm going at a way slower pace than you would, that I
Yeah.
think is, good for your body, but it is like forest bathing is a thing.
I
And
think it's beautiful. I think
yeah.
to your point, like where there's this part of us where we question these things, and that's part of the seeker part or problem that we're talking about because it's like what if it's all okay? Like, what if not running is fine and walking in the forest is fine, right? Like, what if it's all just okay? And in this era of consumption and everybody just telling us, like, don't eat this, don't drink this, drink that, and then it reverses in like 5 years. You're just constantly like, am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right
Mhm.
thing? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And again, that's another big part of like coming back into your own body's wisdom, coming to
Yeah.
know what you want for you, what feels good for you, not what the world is constantly telling you you want or need. And when there's all of that noise, it is kind of hard to dial it down. But I think the more that you get attuned with, like, oh, even though my brain's like running was what made me feel good, but now here I feel good hiking in a forest, but I prefer beaches, like all
Yeah.
of that, like just being with, yeah, I'm just in my forest era.
Yeah.
And it's probably gonna those other thing, I'm like, and God knows these things are gonna change.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure, I'm sure, and to not think that it means anything, like, it doesn't have to mean anything, like,
Right.
I'm such a meaning maker person, like, I think, I wanna, like, get underneath, like, why I'm do like, why, but there doesn't need to be a reason. Something my it's funny, I've I go to Reiki once a month.
Uh-huh.
It is, talk about, like, life-changing, like, that has become a practice that definitely helps me get into my body. I call it my tune-up, like my monthly tune-up.
Yeah.
And the practitioner the healer who I work with, she's become a very good friend of mine too, because we sort of sit first before I get on the table. And something she knows me well at this point, and she'll say to me if I come and be like, "This is bothering me," like I'm trying to tell her, and then we talk about sort of, of course, the body, like where it hurts, but then also what's going on up here.
Mhm.
And she does this little thing with me where she says, "Allison, nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong." And I'm like, "Okay." Like, I go back to her for her to be like, "Nothing that like, everything you just
Like, it's
said."
giving you permission, right? Like,
Yeah,
she's
it's
giving
just
you
it's
permission.
so funny because we've become friendly too, like, she knows, like, my stories and, like, my past and, like, like, she's almost, like, part therapist, and we sort of know each other outside, like, socially. But she's the person who, like, she'll just say, "Nothing's wrong." Like, you know, I can spin it into a problem so easily.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I could testifies everything, and, yeah, like that, you mentioned earlier that I on that live a few days ago, and so I wanna actually thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk again about this desire and how it shifted for me because when I was live on there, as you saw, I thought my dad joined, and I completely, like, was derailed because I was like, "Dad, no, you do not wanna hear me talking about my personal pleasure practice, my sex life, my sex drive, my desire." I was like I couldn't talk after that. Like, I could not I was like, "I don't even know why I'm here." And,
See any derailment, but I can imagine what's going on inside.
but unfortunately, my brain, what it does is it just globs onto that and then just, like, I was fixated on how wrong and what I could have said and what I could have done and delete this and don't like it was out of control, and, like, it's in moments like that where I realize, like, "Oh, the committee's on, you're
Yep,
triggered, the mean girl's here, like, you have it's time to go sit. It's time to go sit and be in your body and witness that, and then come back to self, find that loving part of yourself to meet that voice, like, have your back." Because yeah, little things like that completely just take me away, can take me away. And it's like, everything's wrong. I can't be online ever again.
yeah.
It's terrible.
I catastrophize and I also, like, rehearse. Like, I just wanna like, I'm like, "Oh, girl, you don't have" like, even this morning, you should have seen me. I wouldn't call it rage cleaning, but I must have been a little nervous or something. I was like, I have to clean over there." And so I'm, like, cleaning, and in my head, I'm like, "I wonder if I should ask Ashley this or that." And, it's like, just
Yeah.
show up and talk.
Yeah. It's hard, and I think, like, when you talk about it after, like, it's like, "Oh, yeah, I can identify now that I was feeling anxious. I was nervous maybe. I wanted to make sure this thing was good." And instead of just, like, being with that, we're like, "I'm gonna go clean." And because that's my go-to. We recently had to put our Frenchie to rest, and, leading up to that, I I was cleaning like crazy. I was buying groceries. My kids opened they were both here for it, and they opened the fridge. They're like, why do you have so much milk in here? And I had like rows of different kinds of almond milk called milk, like vanilla, plain, soy, unsweetened. Like I just get super neurotic and like again to that I'm like, oh, if I spend and clean, like everything's gonna be fine. And I reached a place I was like, actually, none of this is gonna be fine. I'm not okay with my dog having to die. Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
like you're just gonna have to sit with that. Like, and I had to just sit with that. And yeah, I was like, oh, no wonder I wanted to buy milk because this feels terrible. I'd rather just buy milk the rest of my life and go
Mhm.
broke than feel what I'm feeling. It's but you can't name it when you're in it necessarily because you're
Right.
just
Right.
consumed. Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely like I understand it quicker than I ever used to, which is,
That's
that's
the work.
it's awareness. Yeah, it's awareness.
Yeah. Especially for people who, we were using alcohol before to like soothe that,
Yeah.
you know, like wired for that. So it's great to know that it's all rewiring.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I know it's 40 past. I don't wanna take up too much of your time, but, one last thing I'm curious about is, because I am a little bit consumed by it, is, are you writing a memoir?
I wrote page 1 yesterday.
There you go. There's the
Mhm.
start. Yeah. So
Yeah. I've been we'd have our journals or maybe their diaries, I'm not sure what to call it necessarily because it is like I'm just dropping, like, all my stuff in there, but for a really long time, I wanted to write this experience about that I had with my mother and our relationship with her disease and, mental illness and then her death. It was just so much, and I've always been someone I shouldn't say always, but in years of writing, like, a dating column and whatnot, I was like, "Oh, I don't really wanna write about things until I process and I understand it, like, once it's complete, and then put it out there and it just maybe reads better or feels more packaged." And so with this experience with my mom, I was like, "I don't wanna write about this until I, like, get it."
yeah.
And, needless to say, I haven't been able to write about it, and, I was talking with my friend who's a writer, and I said, I don't, like, know where to start." And she said, "Well, why do you wanna write about it?" And immediately I was like, "'Cause I really wanna what happened." And she was like, "Start there." And I was like, "Oh," like, it gives me the chills now because, like, I am very clear on, like, I have to put it on paper. Like, she wanted me to, and that's I believe it will help me, like, really make sense of what happened. So, I started yesterday. I don't think that page 1 is gonna be the one, but it was just like, "Oh, 26 years and 2 minutes later, I wrote
I'm
page 1
doing
of
it.
my memoir." That's all it took, guys.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I think that's great. Yeah.
Are you writing one?
I am, I am, and it is not leaving me alone, but I'm not doing a lot of writing. If that make I don't know if did that make any
Does it,
sense.
like, disappear a lot?
I've got a lot of it flushed out as far as, like, a book proposal, like, if you're going the traditional route, but, um, there's for me, my writing takes so long that, like, I have to I do a lot of voice, like, texting myself and dictation and then sort of thing it's a very messy like, writing is the messiest thing I do, and I'm type A, so it's very strange. I embrace it that way, but, I it's just very like, I have to speak it out, and then
Yeah,
I go back and look at the garble and pull things out, and then sit with that for a little while, and then so, yeah, it's coming slowly, and, that's alright, but a lot of the undercurrent of the book is sort of what we're talking about too, is, um, getting lost in healing,
yeah,
and yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think that it's your process, even though it sounds messy to you, sounds really beautiful. I love that you're verbally processing things and then able to go back. This morning I got on Threads. I was very surprised. Yesterday I put the same thing I said on Substack about writing my memoir, page 1. It only took 20 years or
yeah,
whatever. Put it on Threads, and I cannot believe the amount of people that started commenting on it. Like, so much support. I was like, "Wait, who are all these what's going on?" And today I said, because I am definitely curious, so thank you for sharing your process with me. I'm like, do how do you do it? Do you write it or do you type it? Like, my penmanship is horrible and my hand cramps. But I also feel like there's this connection of writing, that we hear about and that I've experienced. So I got on there and asked people, do you write or type? Tell me why. And people are just logging on to answer
Yeah.
that. So it's great to get feedback on what works for people. And again, like, as a seeker, you find out what really works for you. But
Yeah.
yeah, I did think this morning about like, cause I've heard like, what is it about? And like, how do you present that? And someone was like, well, you could think of like maybe two movies or two, like another story and relate it.
Yeah.
And so this morning I was like, oh, I know maybe two, like a little bit of two that kind of go together. And maybe should I start there? So there's a lot of like, where should I start stuff? But page one was written yesterday.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm willing to bet that more comes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially, for me, when I beat the bird like you and I'm up, that's when I get like the
You,
ideas start coming. Yeah. Uh,
yeah. It's really fun.
I bet.
Yeah.
All right. So it's about, I'll think we'll end soon, but, um, most people, if they want to find you, are you just doing your podcast on Substack? Is that
I'm
the
going to
best?
be, the lives and and podcast on there. And then I did move my writing onto Ghost, but it's built into my website because I was just like, I just need one spot for it all, but I can't, Substack is wonderfully hosting my podcast and I've been on Substack a long time. I love it, but there was just like so much like, oh, go here for my writing. Okay, now go here for my website. And there in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, maybe if some of this memoir writing stuff takes on a life, it would be on Substack. I won't put that on my website because that's about pleasure and women connect to their bodies and all. It's my work. First,
Mhm.
maybe Substack will become my more of my like space for my personal story. We'll see.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, see. And I love the community on here. So that's another thing where it's like you can't leave all your friends.
Well, that's it. Like you can, I
I can
mean,
move. I moved, but I still want my friends.
yeah,
And it's a different
it is,
neighborhood.
it is great that way. Being able to kind of continue the discussion in the comment section or even on the notes. And yeah, I can get lost in Substack for a while. That's also a good
Yeah.
insight to that point. But
Yeah, totally. That's social media for you.
I know.
Well designed.
Thank you for doing this with me. I will at some point probably, we can share it with our audiences and, um, you know,
Absolutely.
if you ever want to do it again, I'm sure we could find other things to
Here.
touch on.
Too. Yeah. Like I said, so honored to be able to have this conversation with you and really appreciate it and enjoyed it.
Me too. Thanks,
Awesome.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.